Hi everyone, this video is all about causes of economic growth and how we go about measuring economic growth. Now this page here really should be a revision exercise. Economic growth can be either actual or it can be potential economic growth. Actual economic growth is measured by an increase in the real GDP. So the real GDP measures the value of output adjusted for price levels. So if from 1 year to next with an increase in the real GDP, the economy is experiencing actual economic growth. So the value of the output produced within the economy has increased. Potential economic growth is measuring an improvement or an increase in the country's capacity. So in other words, the country's factors of production have either improved or they have increased. But let's start first of all then with actual economic growth. Now we can show this in different diagrams. Let's start first of all with our trusted production possibility frontier. So what we've got here is an economy that can produce a mixture of consumer goods and capital goods. The PPF itself measures maximum possible output that the economy is capable of producing with an efficient use of its factors of production. Now in this diagram here, what I'm doing, I'm assuming the economy is starting at that output level there. So they're producing CO1 consumer goods and CA1 capital goods. If I worked out the value of this output, it would tell me the real GDP of the economy. The gap between the cross, the actual output, and the PPF is measuring the spare capacity in the economy. So if we get a movement of the cross outwards, it's moving closer to the PPF. On my diagram here we can see that the economy is now producing more consumer goods and more capital goods. So in this example here they're producing more output. So if we go from cross 1 to cross 2, we've got an increase in the output of the economy, which would mean we've got actual economic growth. If the cross was to move inwards, away from the PPF, it means the economy is experiencing negative economic growth. So at the moment, for example, with all the shops closed and businesses shut down across the country because of the coronavirus, the country's output will be starting to fall. So the economy will be experiencing negative economic growth. So guys, if the cross moves inwards, away from the PPF, we've got negative economic growth. If the cross moves outwards, we've got positive actual economic growth. Now we can also show these through AD SRAS diagrams. Now in this first diagram here, what I'm doing, I'm assuming the economy is operating at this original equilibrium point here. Remember, equilibrium is where demand equals supply. So the economy is producing that output level there, so Y1. If AD was to move outwards, it would now mean at P1, or price level 1 across the economy, we've got excess demand for goods and services. So to get businesses to produce more in the short run, price levels need to increase, which will lead to a growth in the output of the economy. We can also show it this way. Again, we start off that equilibrium point there. If SRAS moves outwards, it will mean that price levels fall across the economy, which would lead to an increase in the country's aggregate demand. Remember, SRAS moves outwards due to lower business costs. Now, in both of these two different diagrams here, we've got an increase in output, so Y1 to Y2, Y1 to Y2. These two diagrams show exactly the same as this one here. The country is producing more output. This one here is because of an outward shift in AD, here an outward shift in SRAS. Now the ones on the bottom, these are diagrams we use to show potential economic growth. Remember, potential economic growth is measured by an improvement or an increase in a country's factors of production. Now what you've got here again, we'll start off with this diagram here, the PPF diagram. If the PPF was to move outwards, the economy has experienced potential economic growth. So go from 1 to 2, we've got an improvement or an increase in the factors of production, which means the country's capacity to produce has increased. We can show exactly the same thing using LRAS curves. So I've got here a classical LRAS curve. Remember, a classical economist would assume that in the long run, we will always achieve the potential of the economy. So here, if LRAS1 was to move outwards to LRAS2, the country's capacity to produce has increased. Keynesian world, remember, a Keynesian economist would assume that in the long run, it's possible we could get to YFO, but it's unlikely. If we have an improvement or an increase in factors of production, again though, LRAS will move outwards. And the idea is, everyone, all three of these diagrams again show exactly the same thing. LRAS moving outwards is the same as a country's PPF moving outwards. Right, okay, let's now think about then causes of both actual and potential economic growth. Right, I'm going to bring back this diagram here, the circular flow of income, output and expenditure. Remember, to measure the output of the economy, we can use the circular flow. Income, output, expenditure, they all show me how big the economy is. Think about it logically. If people are spending money, I've got this the wrong way around, if households are spending money, then firms must be producing that output level there. When you spend money, that becomes an income for somebody else. So the logic is, everyone, the circular flow will show me how big the economy is. Now, when the circular flow gets bigger, the economy is experiencing actual economic growth. Well, this could be caused by an increase in aggregate demand. Remember, you've got the formula for AD, C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So if we have a positive increase in C, I, G or X, then the economy will be experiencing actual economic growth. If imports were to fall, well, it could mean that people are starting to shift demand away from foreign goods and services towards domestic goods and services, and that will probably lead to more consumption. So guys, if we get more consumption or more investment or more government spending, more exports taking place, the economy will experience actual economic growth. Now we can also think about this through injections and withdrawals. If government spending or investments or exports were to increase, again assuming ceteris paribus, the circular flow will get bigger, which will create actual economic growth. So at the moment, for example, the government is increasing government spending to sort of boost more money into the economy. This will hopefully enable businesses and consumers to keep on spending, and that will hopefully prop up aggregate demand across the economy. Some economies in recent years, like China, have focused on what we call export-led growth. This is where economies grow by focusing on increasing their exports going overseas. So China, for example, has grown massively in the last 30-40 years by exporting their products all across the world. Well, that output will generate massive incomes from the economy and allow Chinese people to have more jobs, spend more money, which will create more actual economic growth. If withdrawals were to fall, assuming ceteris paribus, then again what would happen is the circular flow would get bigger. So if we were to reduce taxes, it will hopefully mean that people will start to have a higher disposable income. If, for example, income tax was to fall, that could lead to more consumption taking place. If we were to lower taxes on business profits, that could lead to more investment taking place across the economy. Or if British people were to buy fewer imports, it means more money will then go back to UK firms. So again, that would lead to more economic growth. So guys, actual economic growth is caused by these changes here. A growth in C, so consumption, a growth in investment, more government spending, and more exporting taking place. We can also think about it in terms of the injections increasing or the withdrawals falling. Again, both of them two things there would create actual economic growth. So a big thing at the moment is interest rates have been slashed down to 0.1%. If interest rates fall, then it means that people get lower returns on savings. That might reduce the attractiveness of savings money. That could lead to an increase in the average propensity to consume, as people start to spend a bigger slice of their income, which will then potentially boost aggregate demand. I mean that firms got to produce more in the economy. Now, potential economic growth, remember, is about an improvement or an increase in factors of production. So remember, your 4 different factors of production are land, labour, capital and enterprise. So anything that makes these things improve or increase would lead to potential economic growth. So for example, anything that leads to us using more technology to produce goods and services, it would boost the potential of the economy. So say for example, businesses start to make more use of robotics or ICT technology. It will probably lead to them becoming more productive, so the output per worker would increase, which would increase the potential of those businesses and therefore the economy. Now, another one is to think about it in terms of human capital. What we're looking at here is the quality and quantity of the workforce across the economy. If we make labour more skilled, then again people become more productive. So because they're now more efficient, they're now capable of producing more goods and services. To be able to raise standards in education or give people more skills or more qualifications, it should boost the productivity of workers. More investment by firms. If firms start to invest into more infrastructure, so building bigger and more factories, again that would boost their potential and therefore allow the economy to experience potential economic growth. We could look at infrastructure in general. So as a country we need to spend more money upgrading road networks, transport links like port supplies, access to things like broadband supplies and power supplies across the country, then it would increase our potential to produce goods and services. So overall everyone, you've got to think about this stuff as actual is about a physical increase in the output of the economy. Potential is about increasing our capacity to produce goods and services. The logic would be the more potential economic growth we have, the more actual economic growth we will have. So the logic would be the more of this you have, the more of this you will hopefully have in the economy. So overall, this one is about physically producing more output, and this one is about making us in a position where we can produce more output as an economy. This would be moving closer to the PPF. This one is about moving the PPF outwards. So the LRAS curve moving outwards. Right, there you go guys. I'm just going to hit stop on that video now.